My name is Christy, and this is Angel Talk, where the Archangels are real, relevant, and accessible to everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Let's talk. Hello. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday. This is Christy Michelle Riggs, and thank you so much for being here with me again today for another episode of Angel Talk, where we are going to talk about the full moon in Aquarius that is happening August the 3rd at 11:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lots to talk about with this full moon. It is a very pivotal full moon with the light codes and the energies that it is bringing in for us, the things that it is drawing our awareness to, and it actually activates a gateway or yet another portal. And so we're going to be talking about all of that good stuff. Now, the moon is going to be at 11 degrees Aquarius, and the sun is going to be at 11 degrees Leo, and that's what creates the full moon, the sun, when the sun and moon are opposite. And so the number 11 is all about, it's a master number, and it is the number of illumination, of light. It is about inspiration. It's sometimes actually called the illuminator. It reminds us that we are beings of light. And so this 11:11 that we see, with the moon being at 11 degrees Aquarius and the sun at 11 degrees Leo, that is creating the 11:11 gateway or portal. And so remember, we talked that we're having portals within portals within portals, and that they're kind of superimposed upon one another in a spiral. And we've talked about that before. So here we have yet another gateway, another opportunity for us to take that quantum leap, like we talked about, which sounds really out there, but it's really just a way for us to have a very rapid increase in vibration, increase in consciousness, shift. It's a very rapid shift that is available to us if we can get within this portal and align with it. And again, we've got lots of different portals going on right now, so there's lots of different ways that we can do that, and that's kind of what this Aquarius is all about, is celebrating our differences and going about things in a really unconventional way and doing things that are very out of the box. And so with all these different portals going on, there's lots of different ways we can all get to where we need to be. Okay. So the other important thing to talk about with the 11:11 is that is a code that is known as like a code of activation, or an awakening code, or a code of consciousness. I've heard it called before too. And that is why a lot of times the 11:11 is associated with the twin flame journey, is because the twin flames come in and incarnate here on the planet, and they're mirroring each other. They're like mirror twins is what they refer to it as. And that relationship and that journey causes a rapid amount of acceleration, activation, awakening, soul growth that it would normally take many, many, many lifetimes to achieve. And it's achieved in one lifetime. I mean, the twins are together they incarnate for different lifetimes, but there's a more rapid amount of evolution that can happen in one lifetime than what we would normally have if we were just here on our own. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I hope that makes sense. So this 11:11 gateway is about the light, reminding us that we are beings of light. It is Also drawing our attention to polarity, to the fact that we live in a world of contrast. We live in a planet of contrast and of polarity and of opposites, meaning one is not fighting against the other. They're not in opposition as in like aggression. It just is. It just is the way of things. And like you can't have front without back. You can't have top without bottom. You can't have plus without minus, like in a battery or like the poles of a magnet. That's what I'm talking about. And so what can happen if we see things from a viewpoint of being in aggressive opposition, like fighting against one another, then we're going to keep swinging from one side of the pendulum to another, and we're never going to be in balance. So with this being the 1111, it's drawing our attention to light and dark, the shadow and the light, and how they go together as a unit. And we're not at war with darkness. Because if we're fighting against something and we're in resistance to it and we're in aggressive opposition to it, like we've talked so many times, we are actually feeding the very energy that we are trying to illuminate. We can't illuminate it that way. We have to find a balance. And how we do that is for us each individually to find that within ourselves first. And I think it's really interesting that the number 11 has to do with light, and is the numerology of it is about light. Because if you think about white light, it's not actually white. It has all these different prisms of colors, right, that make up the whole of the white light, the completeness of the white light. And so that's really important, because with the moon being at 11 degrees Aquarius, well, first of all, the sun being at 11 degrees Leo is ruled by the sun. It's all about light and warmth and brightness. And then with the moon being at 11 degrees Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And that's all about the unconventional, about freedom and breakthrough, about working together, and about how are we going to come together? How are we going to balance our differences? How are we going to really come together and work as a collective? And so the light is giving us an example of how to do that. With all the prisms of colors, beautiful different shades of colors that all together as a whole make the perfection of white light. And so we can think about how none of the colors of the spectrum of light are fighting against one another. They are all part of the whole. They just are. And it's kind of like, even though we have a north and south pole on our planet, how it was shown to me is they're not opposing each other with aggression. They're not fighting against one another for control or for hierarchy or for anything. They're not so much even what we think about as opposites. See, we think we've been programmed in this dimension to think so much of things we're so linear, and we're so like black and white, you know. And And how it was shown to me is that they work together like a spiral, and they work kind of in tandem with one another, like the North and South Pole. And so if we can really use this Aquarian energy, because we're moving into the age of Aquarius, right? And so if we can really use the energy of all of these different portals and gateways available to us, the Lion's Gate, the 1111, the 88 that's coming up, then we can really tap into a higher level of consciousness that shifts our perspective. We've talked so many times about that. That is really the name of the game. Shifting our perspective. We're going to look at it from a higher consciousness. We're going to be in a place of higher consciousness and work together to create the whole. And really, instead of being in aggressive opposition, if we can learn to celebrate our differences and see the light in another just as it is within us, and see that we are all aspects of the light, that all within those aspects have light and shadow, then we can all get to where we want to go and create the reality that we want to have a lot faster and with a lot less confusion and pain and fear. Okay? So that's where this full moon is drawing our focus to. And again, I just want to say, that's another thing about the twin flame journey is that makes it so challenging, but also so very beautiful, is learning that you're not in aggressive opposition to each other. Because when you're mirroring each other and triggering each other to bring about those rapid states of awakening and higher consciousness, it brings a lot up to the surface very rapidly to be healed and transmuted and understood. And you really have to learn to see, you have to learn that you are seeing yourself in another. And work in tandem and fit together like puzzle pieces to create this. And when you get it right and you slip into those places where you fit like puzzle pieces, it's just the most beautiful, wonderful experience that I don't have adequate words for. And we can experience that as a whole, as a collective, when we can all fit together like puzzle pieces, or like the rays of a rainbow, the fractals of light. If we can learn to do that, if we can do that within ourselves first, look at all aspects of ourselves, both the shadow and the light, and accept that there is shadow within each of us, and look at that from a higher perspective, of a more objective place, and see what that's about. See why that is there, why we're being triggered in those ways, why we respond in those ways. And we can transmute those things, and we can shine light on those things, and then we can call all parts of ourselves back and be and embody the whole of our consciousness as we were intended. And we're just remembering that. But we can call all of those fractals back to ourselves and be open to receiving that, open to receiving these downloads, open to receiving these light codes, and really, really progress in a very radically different way forward. And I just can't stress enough about being in a place of higher consciousness where our perspective is different, and we can see things for what they are and why they're happening, and that will allow us to take in even more of these light codes, download even more of these light codes, and it will allow us to work with these energies from a much higher perspective and in a much different way. So the other thing that it's important to understand about Aquarius is that it represents our connection to the galactic, our connection to the multidimensional, our connection to our higher selves, our connection really inevitably to source. And so also the number 11 has to do with that. It has to do with our intuition, inspiration. And these are all things that are mirrored in the energy of Aquarius. Taking inspired action, tuning into our intuition, tuning into the place where the source within is, developing that. And like I said, in the angel awareness for this first week of August, dropping out of the mental body, dropping out of that place where the ego can feel like it's our intuition, but it's more quiet than that. Our intuition is just a knowing from within that isn't based in fear, that isn't based in being triggered, that isn't based in anger or reactivity, being reactive. It's that quiet knowing that will not yell above the ego. It will not yell above the mental body. So we have to drop into that place of intuition in order to take inspired action, because inspired action happens in the now moment. That's why it's called inspired action. You just all of a sudden are inspired to do something or to go a certain direction or to make a certain decision. And it comes from a place of not living in the past, and also because the past no longer exists, and also not living in the future because the future does not exist. When we start to worry about all of the things that might happen in the future, the computer that is our mind is basing that on an algorithm of everything that we've learned from the past that no longer exists. So you can see how we get ourselves, when we stay in the mental body and we get ourselves all spun up, we are trying to create potentials for a future that are based on a summary or an algorithm that our brain is creating based on our experiences of the past. And the thing about moving into this Aquarian age is that this is uncharted territory. There's no playbook for this. This is never before done, never before seen. And so it's really, really calling us to live in the now moment and really tune in to the source within. And that's where we can take inspired action that is based in love and in unity and in the highest and greatest good, rather than in fear or in being triggered or in reactivity or anger or hurt or any of that kind of thing. It's fresh. It is seeing each new moment with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh feeling, a fresh intuition about it. So that's going to require us to really raise ourselves in consciousness and to really shift our perspective and to really tune in to the light and shift to the light. And so the angels have some things that they want to share with us about that. Some ways that we can work with this energy and some things that are going to help us to navigate this. And we're going to work with the Archangel Metatron Self-Mastery Oracle for this full moon reading, for this message. Because if you remember from when we were working with Metatron in the month of July, he is the archangel that can really help us with that. He is the archangel that can assist us with seeing things from a different perspective, with seeing things from a much higher consciousness. And he can help us to really integrate and understand and embody those things at a very rapid pace. And also, I think it's neat, too, because we were talking about all the different fractals of light, the prism, how it comes together to make the whole that is white light. When I work with Metatron, and I've worked with him for a hot minute now, he's been with me since my earliest memories. But when I see him, when I encounter him, I encounter this being whose wings look like fiber optics. It's really the neatest thing. And so that just, when I was drawn to use this deck, that really affirmed it for me that, you know, he's really wanting to come through to say, hey guys, I'm here. I'm helping. I'm here to do whatever I can do to help you get to this place of higher consciousness, to help you through these turbulent times, to help you to lift up, to float above it, to get up out of the density and to really tune into your intuition, live in the now moment, understand that you live in a world that is a world of contrast, but that doesn't mean that it has to be aggressively opposing when we talk about contrast. That we can see it as that it just goes together. It's just part of it. And so he's really coming in today to help us with that. And so the first card that he's giving us is the number 3 card. And we've talked about that number 3 so many times. That's come up again and again and again and again. And that is really going to help us move into this Aquarian age. Because number 3 is the number of manifestation. It's the number of creation. And it says, the card actually says expansion in your life. And so the message that's coming through with this is about how every action, every creation, everything that is made manifest starts with an intent and a thought. And so he's really calling us to be aware of our thoughts, be an observer of our thoughts, and to really think before we act. And think that through the filter of light. Run your thoughts through the filter of, if I send this energy out into the universe, and knowing that whatever energy I send out is going to come back to me magnified, do I want to be sending out thoughts of aggression and opposition and hatred and revenge and all of that kind of thing? Because I know that whatever I send out is going to come back to me magnified. And so if there are billions of people on the planet sending out thoughts that are going to come back to them magnified of those lower level, lower density things, then guess what we're going to have as a collective, right? And we've talked about this so many times. So he's really calling us to expand our consciousness by starting with just being an observer of our thoughts and being mindful of what we're sending out into the universe. Are we sending out hate-filled thoughts and really negative thoughts? Do we have negative thoughts about the future? That it's never going to get better and that everything is just terrible and everything is, are those the kind of thoughts that we're having? Or can we stop and be an observer of that and then replace that thought? Because it's not enough to just stop it. You have to replace it. Replace that thought with an affirmation that says, I know why this is happening. I know what's going on. I know that this is paving the way for the new that I want to create. I am abundant. I am resourceful. I know that the universe has everything for me that I need. I just have to be open to receiving it. Are we in those kind of thoughts that are then going to come back to us, magnified, and made manifest in our reality? So he's really drawing our attention to the importance of that. So the next message that we have, the next card that he has given us is a card that says, go with the flow. And the message that came through with this is about getting in the flow of these energies. Getting in rhythm with what is going on. Tapping into these energies and even when they're intense, surrendering to the universe, that the universe knows how. The universe knows what it's doing, asking the angels for help, and being a part of the momentum forward instead of in resistance to it. Because these energies are going to be there. We can't fight them. They're going to be there whether we get in the flow of it or not. And so it's really important that we are aware of the places that we're in resistance to love, in resistance to compassion, in resistance to unity, in resistance to our own shadow, in resistance to the light. Any place that we find ourselves in resistance, and that requires going within. So we're not going to be looking around trying to point it out in others. We're going to go within. And if each of us goes within and finds that and addresses that within ourselves, then as a collective, that's going to be made manifest. That's going to be part of our awareness. That's going to be part of our reality, is that we're all doing that. And that the more of us that do that, then the easier it's going to be. We're going to create a flow, and it's the easier it's going to be for others to tap into that. It's going to kind of create a vacuum pulling upward. That it's going to be easier for others to get in the flow of and attune with us and really move in to this higher place of consciousness. And then the final message that Metatron and the Archangels have for us comes with the number 47 card, which is just absolutely perfect. You can't make this stuff up. That is the number 11. And it says, blessings and thanks, abundant universe. And the message that comes through with this is about going within to see anywhere that we have a mindset of lack. And we often limit feelings of lack or thinking about lack in terms of monetary lack or lack of resources. And what the angels are giving us to think about and to be aware of with this card is we need to also look at any place that we feel in lack of anything, because lack is lack. The vibration of lack is lack. And if we feel that we're in lack of love, in lack of safety, in lack of understanding, in lack of friendship, in lack of romance, in lack of confidence, in lack of worthiness is a big one. Any of those things can block us to being open to receive all that the universe has to give us. And so the angels are asking that we really go within to find any place that we have feelings or programs running, or any place that we are operating from a mindset of lack, and to get in the flow of gratitude, which manifests abundance. Get in the flow of compassion. Get in the flow of forgiveness. All of those things are going to open our heart space. They're going to open us up to knowing that we are always taken care of in every moment. And that's going to require us getting in touch with our intuition. It's going to require us really to be focused on our thoughts and what we're sending out into the universe. And when we can do that, and that's not going to happen overnight, but I will tell you that the angels will work with you on that and help you make transformation, especially with the energy available to us right now in these gateways that are open, that it can happen a lot faster than you believe that it would. Okay? And so that's what the angels have for us for this full moon in Aquarius. Lots of energy to work with, lots of good stuff, lots of things to be mindful of, but we can do it, and the angels are here to help. That's the fabulous news, is that we do not have to do it alone. We've got help. We've got angels, we've got ascended masters, we've got source, we've got an entire universe that is conspiring for our good. We just have to be open to receive it. We have to have that 2020 vision of the year 2020 to see it from a different perspective, and to see that there is so much love pouring in, that we just have to make a few shifts. And when we make those few shifts, it opens up space for that love to just come flooding in, and to be so